Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Tom Zuck's U.S. Civil War Letters, 1863 to 1864, Part 7, Missing Anna and Nettie. U.S. Post Hospital, Cairo, Illinois, December 6, 1863. My own dear wife, I received your last letter a day or two since, and you can fully understand how very glad I was after having waited for it for over 2 weeks. I had almost begun to think that something serious had taken place to prevent your writing. I feel indeed very sorry for Mr. Welch's loss, but I am also very glad that the fire spread no farther, for I can hardly conceive how any of the buildings in the neighborhood could escape the devastating element, while so large a wooden structure as that of the factory was burning. I suppose that Uncle Tommy thought he was a gone case, surely. You want to know how I get along for clothes. I can draw all the government clothing that I want at almost any time, and you know what the underclothing is that Uncle Sam furnishes us. It is not quite so nice as we would have it if we could have it to get up ourselves, but then I guess it is just about as comfortable. So don't give yourself any uneasiness on that score. Socks I can draw from the government for a great deal less than you could possibly make them for, or even buy the material for. I suppose you have received the money I sent you by this time, else you would have written immediately upon the receipt of my last letter. I wish I could have doubled the sum I sent, for, dear Anna, I feel that the small pittance that I am occasionally sending you cannot meet your wants. But what to do I do not know. Now, Anna, don't for any sake stint yourself in anything you may think necessary for your comfort, as long as what little money you have lasts. And when that is gone, if I cannot send immediately again, draw that Father has and use it. Recollect that this is my wish, and I feel very bad when I think you are pinching yourself to save what little I send to help you along. I received a letter from Bowen yesterday, the first that I have had from him since I was at home. He sent me the official return of the election in Ohio and the county election in Marion County. I noticed that the Union ticket was pretty generally beaten in that county, but Van Fleet was beaten and Bill Lewis was elected. What makes me feel particularly good about Lewis's election is that at the time I went to Mound City to vote, I had almost made up my mind not to vote on the county ticket at all. Then I concluded that I would give Lewis a lift anyhow, and he was the only man on the county ticket that I voted for. So now when the returns are made out, he has but a majority of 2. So you see, if some other soldier had concluded to do as I intended to in the first place, there would have been trouble over the sheriff's office in Marion County. So you see what one vote does sometimes. There was a lieutenant from our brigade in town the other day, and he told some of the boys that some of the regiments from our brigade were coming up to Memphis in a few days. He said the 96th Ohio and 16th Indiana had suffered so badly in that late engagement in Texas, and I think in all probability our regiment will be one of those that will be sent up. At least I hope so. I must make this letter short, for I want to attend church this afternoon. I will write to M or Noni sometime this week and try if I can't elicit an answer from them. Oh, how I would like to see my little girl today. I see other folks going and coming on the sidewalks with their children, and it makes me feel so bad that I must look on. And at the same time, my dear wife and little treasure are sad and lonely at home because of my absence. Dear Anna, I pray to God that it may not long be so. Kiss Nettie for me. Goodbye, your affectionate husband, Tom. U.S. Post Hospital, Cairo, Illinois, December 28, 1863. My dear, dear wife, it has been over a week since I have written to you, but it has not been because I have not had the will. But for the last 3 or 4 days I have been helping the steward make out the reports and pay rolls. We had quite a time here at the hospital on Christmas Day, and had a very good dinner served up to me. To be sure, we did not have the many little delicacies that we would have at home, but we did have a nice roast turkey and other things of the sort, as anyone would wish to sit down to. I received a letter from Maria the other day, and she tells me that Lieutenant Colonel Brown is at home and expects to remain there for some time on recruiting service. Also, that Marsh Godman was about to be married. She also says that Father is going to sell our old home to the new railroad company, a fact which really gave me pain, for that old house and its surroundings seemed to me like so many old friends. And now to have it torn to pieces and used for a railroad stopping place looks almost like sacrilege. You may tell Nora for me that I have her letter and was very glad to get it. I am sorry that I cannot have the pleasure of spending the holidays at home. This is the second time that they have passed, and I have been forced to stay among strangers. Oh, how long will it be before I can once more be at home and enjoy the pleasure of your presence, dear Anna? This is not all that makes me feel bad when thinking of home and its associations. When I left home, there were quite a number of those who had been my companions and associates from childhood with me. Now when I return to the regiment, I can see but few of them, and in our old company none. All that remained there now were total strangers to me when I enlisted. And I know that some are my secret enemies that would do all in their power to injure me. There is one thing that I want to tell you, and at the same time I want it to be kept from others for a while at least. The present surgeon in charge of the hospital has been telling me for some time that I am not fit for field duty, and he says he is going to make application to the Surgeon General at Washington to have me detailed as wound sketcher in this district. They have always had such a person until lately. Now what do you think of it? Would you accept it if it came? Or go on with Godman to the regiment, and take my chances with those who I do not have any too much love, who I know do not have any too much love for me? You are as much interested in this matter as I am. Give me your advice. There were some ladies visited the hospital today, and with them was a little girl about the age and size of our Nettie, and I felt almost like catching the little creature up and drawing her to my heart, so strong was the impression made upon my feeling by this little chatterbox. I have been looking for a letter from you all day in answer to my last letter, for I know you will feel bad when you get it. But, dear Anna, you cannot feel any worse than I did when I learned how much love they had for me at the company. As soon as I found how matters stood, I went straight to the surgeon in charge and told him all about it. Instead of being surprised as I supposed he would, he almost laughed at me and said that was nothing. Need not be scared of anything of that kind, for I had done nothing wrong. They could not do anything at all with me. Let them report ever so much. Then he immediately sent a certificate to Colonel Vance requesting him to straighten the thing up immediately. Dear Anna, I must stop, for it is getting late. I attended a Negro meeting this evening just across the way from the hospital, so it was late before I commenced writing. Write to me as soon as you get this. Kiss my dear, dear little girl for me, and let me once more ask you to pray for me. I try to pray for you and myself, but it almost seems like a mockery. I know so well that I am not what I should be. Dear Anna, help me by your counsel and prayers to be a better man. Your ever affectionate Tom. P.S. We will be paid in a day or two again, and then I want to send you about $20. Goodbye, Tom. U.S. Post Hospital, Cairo, Illinois, January 3rd, 1864. My dear Anna, this is Sunday, and as it is cold and disagreeable outdoors, I have no alternative but to stay in the house and pass the time as best I can. I received your last letter the day before New Year's Day and was glad to get it, for I feared that you would feel bad about what I had written to you. Now I am so assured that whatever my troubles may be, you are still my best friend. We had on New Year's, as on Christmas, a very nice dinner and trimmings, and it would do you good to see how the soldier boys enjoy such things, for it is very seldom that they have the privilege of sitting down to a good, well-cooked meal, and when they do, it is with a degree of satisfaction that is really refreshing to behold. You say that you feel badly when other folks are receiving presents and none are bestowed upon you. I have thought of this often when thinking of the approaching holidays and realized that I would be compelled to spend them among strangers far away from those that I am bound to by the tenderest ties of nature. But I hope the time may soon come when we will have no longer cause to sorrow over things that are now beyond our control. There is much excitement here, as well as every other place where troops are stationed, over the re-enlisting for the veteran service that is going on, and many are again going into the service for 3 years. For my part, I think my patriotism will not lead me to do such thing, and more especially if we will have it as hard as we have had it for the last year and a half. You say Willie will soon be home again. Oh, how glad I would be to be there when he comes, for it has been now 2 years since I have seen him. But from appearances I am inclined to think that all the soldiers will have a chance to go home before many months, for I honestly believe that there is now a more encouraging prospect of a speedy close of the war than there has been since its commencement. I have been looking for Marsh Godman now for a couple of days, and I have this promise that he will call at the hospital when he does come and see me. I expect he will be here tomorrow, sure. I do not know now when we will be paid off again. It may be in a day or two, and it may not be for 2 or 3 weeks. They have been changing paymasters at this post again, and that always makes delays. Nevertheless, I will send the money to you as soon as I get it. I wrote to Nelson some time ago, but he has never answered, and I don't know what to make of it. I think I will try him once more, and then if he does not answer, I will give it up as a hard job. I have no news to write, so I will be compelled to make this letter short. Tell Noni and Emma that I will write to them in a few days and try and make up for lost time. Tell Nettie that her pa will surely bring her something nice when he does come. Kiss my little pet for me. Write soon. Your own affectionate husband, Tom. Post Hospital, Cairo, Illinois, January 24th, 1864. My own dear Anna. She was in Marysville, Ohio. As I promised yesterday to write today, and have just received your last cheering and welcome letter, I will take this, my earliest opportunity, to reply. As I said in my letter yesterday, I have been down for several days with intermittent fever, which the doctors feared would result in varroa or smallpox. But now all fears on that point are gone, for my fever has subsided, and I will be able to be around again in a day or 2. You perhaps know that in smallpox the fever always continues until the eruptions appear upon the surface of the skin, and if the fever can be broken up, there is no fear of smallpox. So I hope you will be in no fever on my account. Dear Anna, I don't know how to express my feelings when reading your last letter. Oh, if I could only have you near me now, how pleasant it would be to feel the soft pressure of your hand on my brow, and above all, how inexpressibly sweet to know that there is one true and warm heart that for me and me only throbs in pure and holy sympathy. But when I have the assurance from your own pen and heart, although separated by many long miles, it sends a thrill of joy and pleasure to my heart that is indescribably sweet, and I can assure you that your embrace and caresses would not be lavished upon an unfeeling object. For you know my nature in that particular better than I can describe it. I will do as you requested and send you $30 in this letter, but to receive greater safety, I think it necessary to have it registered. I want you, dear Anna, to be sure and let me know when you are short of money, for nothing makes me feel worse than to be wondering and doubting about your welfare. But I will bring this scribbling to a close. Tell Tommy that his little note was highly acceptable, and I will try and write to him as soon as possible. And my dear little Nettie, what shall I say for her? I presume something tangible would be more pleasing than this paper affection. But tell her that her pa will make up some day for his long absence. Your ever affectionate Tom. Post Hospital, Cairo, Illinois, January 26, 1864. My dear, dear wife, It has been but a couple of days since I did write to you, but as time drags heavily on my hands, I think I cannot employ it more profitably than in writing. I spoke in my last letter about my being unwell, but can now say that I am rapidly improving, and hope in a few days to be able to start down the Mississippi River to the regiment. I feared that I was not going to get over this little spell of fever so easily, and from what the boys around me were prophesying, that I would surely have the smallpox. It is now coming out better than I dared to hope. Yesterday I registered a letter to you containing $30. I told you that I would send you but $20. When I came to look over my money, I found that I had been paid $10 more than I expected. When I was paid off, I stuck the money in my pocketbook without looking at it, and did not think of my clothing account having been settled until I came to send the money off. So you see, I saved over $10 on my last year's clothing, and if nothing happens, I will try and do better this year. Mr. Paget informed this evening that his battery had returned to Ohio on furlough as veterans, and what he don't know, one thing I know he will not do, and that is re-enlist. He says he had been soldiering enough, having now been in the U.S. service about 8 years. He was in the regulars 5 years before the war commenced. I suppose they will have some gay times up north now that the boys are all coming home on furlough. I sometimes almost fear that the poor fellows who are left behind will be forgotten when the veterans return. Let that be as it may. I have a notion that all of the boys will have a chance to see home before the next summer is ended, for in my humble opinion, to use a vulgar but common expression, I think this rebellion is about played out. I have come across some rebel poetry that may be amusing to Tommy, which I will enclose. They were supposed to have been written by some Rebs during the siege of Vicksburg, and from what I know of that affair, I judge that some parts of them are very expressive and beautiful. I would like to see you and my little girl this evening very much. I get very lonesome in this old hospital, and the thought of my dears feeling lonesome away from me makes me miserable. I try to be happy and feel satisfied. I think I have spun this out about long enough and will stop, for I want to write again this week. There was one curious thing that happened here this morning which I can't help speaking of. There's a man on the 3rd floor of the hospital suffering from pneumonia, and it has made him delirious most of the time since he has been here. This morning he sprang from his bed, and before the nurse could prevent him, he jumped out of the window. And on his way to the ground, he made a vigorous kick, striking a window on the 2nd story and sending the glass half across the ward. The next object he came in contact with was the ground, some 30 feet from the first starting point. The strange part of this whole matter is that the man was not injured in the least from the fall. The doctor persists in calling him Sam Satch. I must stop. Kiss my darling for me, and remember me in your devotion. Your affectionate husband, Tom. Cairo, Illinois, February 7th, 1864. My dear Anna, this is Sunday night, and I know you will be employed in writing to me, and I will not let the opportunity pass without giving you in return my usual letter. Things in and around this town are unusually quiet just at this time, and a stranger visiting this place now would think that Cairo could not be the place that may have condemned heretofore as the hardest place in the West. Still, though things begin to show a much fairer exterior, anyone acquainted with the town would know full well that the worst is but covered up. I am now almost entirely recovered from my late sickness, and am now ready to start to the regiment as soon as the doctor sees fit to send me, and I think that will not be long. I had hoped that Marsh Godman would have been along before I should start, but I now begin to think that he is not coming at all, so I must go without him. If my friends at the regiment want to vent their jealousy against me, why, I shall give them the opportunity. I think I can stand it some way or other. I spoke to you in my last letter about the doctor having offered me a furlough, and that one thing makes me feel worse than everything else, for if I had such officers as usually put over men, I would dare to go whenever I could get the opportunity. I am scratching tonight with an old quill pen, and you don't know how nice and smooth it moves over the paper to one accustomed as I am to writing with a steel pen. I have not heard from anyone at Marion, Ohio now for over a month, and I suppose they are beginning to forget all about me. I still look for a letter from that quarter before long. You must tell me if they charged you anything extra on my last letter. I had no means of ascertaining whether I had stamps enough on it or not. Now to answer some questions you asked me in your last letter, which I forgot in mine the other day. You wanted to know if my friend Paget was married. I am sorry or glad that I can hardly say which, to say that he is not. He and the lady with whom he was keeping company had some sad misunderstanding which finally resulted in a mutual consent to play quits. Paget thinks himself an injured man and threatens to turn misanthropist and forswear the whole sex. In my humble judgment, I half suspect that he is more than half to blame for all the trouble that exists, and advised him as a friend, inasmuch as he had made me his confidant, to either marry the girl or let her alone, and perhaps she might let someone else whose society would compensate for the loss. Editor's note: this letter was not finished. Cairo, Illinois, February 8, 1864. Dear Anna, I sent you a letter the other day, and what it was I don't know, but I was looking over my old letters today and found this very one I thought I had sent you. I want you to tell me what letter it was I did send in the place of this. I am ashamed of my carelessness. You will no doubt think that I am trifling, but I now send this as I have discovered my mistake. Your ever affectionate Tom. Now, Tom had a letter from his brother, John Nelson, whom they called Nelson, his older brother, and he sent this letter to Anna. East Saginaw, Michigan, January 2nd, 1864. Dear brother. This is a letter from Tom's brother, older brother, Nelson, to Tom. A Happy New Year greeting, hoping in the close of 1864 you will be allowed, with the 500,000 of your comrades in arms, to return to your homes and families, and that war with its devastating train shall have ceased to destroy this once fair and happy land, decimating her population. May we view the other side of the picture before the return of another new year, where peace and happiness shall return to our distracted country, and that fanatics and agitators of both sections, both north as well as south, may meet with their just rewards, and retributive justice overtake those who have fanned the flame of civil war, until desolation and ruin are not over the land. Your very kind letter I received some days since, also one while you were at Vicksburg, both of which I have neglected to answer. The offense you will pardon without apology from me, if I only could make my letter as interesting to you, as yours has been a source of gratification to me. I should probably write oftener. You have a greater fund to draw from, as I am confined to a daily routine of business in an out-of-the-way place, sometimes not seeing a newspaper for a week. I shall have to dispute with you the claim to superiority of that mud-hole, Cairo, Illinois. There has been more business done in East Saginaw this past season than any other place in the United States in proportion to her population, Cairo not excepted. I have done very well here the past season, making from $100 to $250 per month, without $1 of capital invested. I have been interested in 2 jobs, putting my time and experience against the capital invested, each paying half the expense. The first one I made $500 in 7 weeks. I was so unwell during the summer and fall that I could not labor at the auger, and at present I am superintending 2 wells, relieving me of labor, accepting my time and attention. The wells are about 1/4 of a mile apart, being about equal distant, one on each side of my house, so that my labor is comparatively light. I have the employing of hands, the paying of the same, and keeping their time, which makes quite a clerkship, giving me the control of a business amounting to about $3,000 per month. We have had excessive cold weather for 2 or 3 days past. I think the thermometer will fall as low as 25 degrees below zero tonight, accompanied with one of the finest specimens of a blow that I have ever experienced. Business is entirely suspended and everybody keeps closely housed. Lib says that if this is the kind of weather we are going to have, she is going back to the Buckeye State. She in other respects seems very well pleased with her new home. The boys are also very well pleased, but the rigors of a winter on the upper Great Lakes is not so pleasant. You'll have to excuse this scribbling. The children are all around me, raising hell generally. Fathers were all well when I last heard from there. Father wrote a letter giving me the very devil because I do not move to Marion, Ohio, and starve to death. He mourns very bitterly because his boys will not stay at home, and in the same letters talks of moving the Rosas clean out of God's creation. He talks of selling out his property to the railroad company for station house grounds. East Saginaw has presented the best opening for mechanics of any place in the country. There's been over 300 houses built the past season. Bay City, Saginaw City, Salina, Carrollton, Bangor, Salzburg, Zilwaukee, all within a distance of 14 miles, doing equally as well. There's not a foot of lumber on the Saginaw River at this time, when there was over 200 million feet sawed the past season, nor a barrel of salt for sale, when there was about 600,000 barrels manufactured. Lumber and salt have both commanded high prices, the former from $20 and $30 per thousand, and the latter from $225 to $265 per barrel, bringing in a very large capital. I think this place is destined ere long to be a very large city. There is one solar salt company organized and going into operation in the spring with a cash capital of $800,000, giving employment to over 500 men. They will cover 500 acres with vats and any quantity of companies on a smaller scale. I will now bring this disconnected letter to a close, hoping that it may prove interesting to you. Write to me often, as is convenient, and I will try and make amends for the past neglect. You spoke in your letter of an estrangement of affection between us. I will assure you that I have ever regarded you as a brother, though there has been an apparent indifference. I have always regarded you with the kind feelings that characterize our former life. Again, I beg you will excuse all mistakes. I sign myself your affectionate brother, John N. Zuck. P.S. The children and Elizabeth send their respects. Yours, Nelson. Cairo, Illinois, February 20th, 1864. My own dear Anna, I have just received your letter and must confess that the news of our dear child's sickness almost drives me mad. Why is it that things should be thus when my circumstances are such that I must be compelled to feel and realize all this misery and not be able to offer one atom of relief to the dear little sufferer in whom I have the deeper interest than any beside yourself? But such is the case, and I must submit, even though it be to lose our dear child. Oh, Anna, for my sake, don't let any means go untried to secure her recovery, for life to me will be a blank without her. If I were only with you, I think that together we could bear the torture with more fortitude. I had expected a letter from you on Wednesday, and when it did not come, I knew there must be something wrong. Either Frank was worse or something else had happened. But little did I know that my poor little darling Nettie was suffering. Do write as soon as you get this and let me know everything, for I must know. This suspense is more torture for me than you can conceive. What physician is attending her? What does he call the disease? Everything connected with her sickness will be to me a source of deepest interest. I did intend to start to my regiment last Monday, but I got a letter from Maris on Saturday evening in which he said that Brown and Godman would be here in a few days. This I told the doctor, and he said I had better remain until they came and then accompany them down the Mississippi River. I have now waited all week, and still they do not come. I had almost concluded to go without them, but now that I hear such sorrowful news from you, I do not know what to do. Oh, if I could only see you before going so far away again. I think I could do it with a much lighter heart. I fear this cannot be. Dear Anna, Let us trust a higher power than any on this wretched earth possess, for God has said that he will be a protection to all who trust in him. Tell my little girl that her pa knows of her suffering and would willingly do anything in his power to alleviate it. I can only weep in silence, and no one will be affected at the poor soldier's misery in this time of suffering. I will write to you again tomorrow, and in the little time that I can remain longer in Cairo. I will anxiously look for any intelligence from you. Your ever affectionate and loving husband, Tom. P.S. I have some pictures taken but will not send any now. I will wait until I hear from you again. Tom. To be continued. Well, that concludes today's presentation. We'll continue next time with Tom Zuck's U.S. Civil War Letters Part 8. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.